Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this program, Our Moments with God, our moments with the Word of God, our moments with the love, mercy, and compassion of God, our moments also with the voice of God. Sometimes we do not recognize His voice, as we shall see in the reading today from the first reading of the Mass, today from the book of Samuel. And I invite you also to be co-proclaimers with me by sharing the word of God that I share with you. Those of you who are able to see it, please do share it with your friends and ask them also to share so that we reach more people. Thank you very much. Today, as you see, I am once again in this church, which is in the Old Testament, could be compared to the temple. And there are three important characters in the first reading today. Of course, the place being the temple, and I am standing here, that's why, in the temple. And the three important characters are, first of all, God Himself calling Samuel. Samuel, who is supposed to be just a 12-year-old boy, will come to that. And Eli, who was serving as a priest there. So, priest serving there in the temple in his old age could be like me now, running 75 and serving in this place here. I offer Mass here every day in this place. So, I could be considered as one like Eli, who is serving the Lord in the temple. But then there is another character, Samuel, who I just mentioned. Samuel is also 12 years old. Remember, Samuel is the son of Hannah, who cried so much to the Lord because she was barren, and God finally heard her prayer and granted her this son. And she had promised that, Lord, if you take away my shame of being a childless or barren woman, then I will offer this child in your service. And she did exactly that. Just when he was 3 or 4 years old, she brought him to this temple, not this temple, but to the temple where Eli was serving. And he worked under Eli. So already from the age of 3 or 4, and he is now 12 years old, when he hears the voice of God calling him Samuel, Samuel, but he doesn't understand that it is a voice from God because he had never heard God's voice and he was not familiar. So he goes to Eli and says, here I am, you called me. 3 times it happens, and each time Eli tells him, no, I did not call you. But next time when you hear, then you tell the Lord, here I am, your servant is listening. Do you know, this reminds me of my own story. Now I am comparing myself to Eli at the age running 75. But do you know, almost 65 years ago, 64 years ago, when I was also 12, I joined the seminary as a boy, young boy. And many these days wonder, oh, you joined the seminary so young. And that time also people used to ask me, how do you decide to become a priest? How do you hear the voice? And of course, those days, and even later, we used to use this story of today's first reading as Samuel was called by God, and he first did not recognize his voice, but then later on he said, yes, here I am, Lord, speak to your servant, or I'm listening. So I am reminded like that. I think around the age of 11, I must have heard this voice somehow inside calling me. And when I told my parents, they laughed at me and said, no, you are too young and you do not understand what priesthood is and what serving God means. Later on, through the advice of our school principal, one Father Hyacinth Pinto or J.S. Pinto, they finally agreed to send me to the apostolic school where I grew up. But very interesting, you see how God calls us at different times, maybe at young age, maybe at a later age. You know, there is one sentence in the chapter 2 of this book of Samuel that at that time, Samuel did not know about the Lord and did not hear his voice. I think this is one reason why we often do not hear God's voice, because we are not attuned to listening to God. And that's why 3 times he hears the voice, but he's not listening. He hears the voice and goes to Eli, rather than telling God, yes, here I am. And finally, Eli who advises him to, yes, this next time when you hear. So the elder people, the priests like me and parents or teachers in the school also have a responsibility to guide the young boys and girls who are just entering into life, to also train them to listen to God's voice. God needs us. The other day we just said how Jesus went out 2 days ago, actually, and called the first disciples Simon and Andrew, because Jesus needed people to carry out his mission. A little further, he went and called sons of Zebedee, James and John. Yes, and I mentioned that day that Jesus needs us. But this began already in the Old Testament. God needed also Samuel. Samuel then became a big, famous king and led Israel. He was the first king of Israel. But the main thing is that God calls us. Are we trained to listen to the voice of God? I am very grateful to the Lord that somehow I listen to his voice. And though I have not been a good priest or a perfect priest, or have had my failings, I've had failures in my life, not in academic, but failures as priest. But at least I am trying now to listen more and more to the voice of God, and trying to help whoever listens to me to come and listen to God's voice and be close to him. And if you like, you may please subscribe to this channel. Thank you.